Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. All right, today's question from the blog happens to be one about putting. And this comes from Joe Purcell. And Joe says, Serge, watched your putting video. One item you did not cover is keeping your eye on the ball. I saw a comment on Golf Channel that you should focus on the back of the ball where the club hits, just as you look at the head of a nail when nailing. It has greatly improved my accuracy. Where do you focus? Keith Kent came right back and said, I saw a good practice tip. Place a coin underneath the ball, take your putt shot, and don't move the head until you see the coin. At least I can now keep my head looking at the spot until I hear it drop or not. A very strange feeling at first, but it does improve your putting as well as, and it well did mine. Okay, good tip. So what Keith Kent came back and said was the concept about really keeping your head still when you putt. I know that probably, I would say one of the best tips I ever got was, one time I played with Gary Player, and this is quite a few years back. And Gary has noted that his concept was always, you must keep your head still and keep your head down so that everything stays still so you can return the putter to the ball consistently. And we've had some comments lately and talks about head movement in a golf swing. Well, if head movement for hitting a putter is no good and we want the head as dead still as we can for a putter, then why do we want to allow a lot of head movement in hitting in swinging and hitting a ball with power from a driver all the way to a sand wedge? It's even more important to keep it still because the more your body's moving, the more error you could have in not getting the club onto the ball properly. So Gary Player's thought was always to just stand here, and when you take your setup, his thought was he wants you to hit the putt and the head does not move until you hear it fall in the hole, or you can pretty much say it should have been there by now. That's how implicit and emphatic Gary Player was about it. And I mean, he was probably one of the premier ones at doing it. Keith's idea about putting a coin underneath the ball is excellent, because at least if by the time you hit the ball and the putter passes by it, your head hasn't moved till you can see that coin, you have definitely not moved until after impact, and then it'll be okay at that point. All right, so that's one of them. But the original question comes from Joe about, what do I focus on? I was just honest to God, last night I caught a part of some Golf Academy thing on the Golf Channel, and it was Sir Nick Faldo, and he was talking about putting, and he mentioned that through his career, he said he's always focused first on that his head doesn't move, and he did it by focusing on the golf ball. He said, but he varied it. He said he'd go through stages like where he would change his putting grip, and he might put his top finger straighter down over to the side. He might even put the top hand down and the bottom hand finger down, and he would fool around with that a little bit. But per se, it was always pretty much his hands were in the same position, other than fooling with those fingers for better touch. But he said sometimes he would look at one of the dimples directly on the top of the ball, and sometimes he would look more towards the back. Now, I don't know, how well can you see the back? I mean, you'd have to be kind of looking from back here if you're really going to see a dimple way there on the back. So I think most people would say probably the optimal, if you're going to focus on a dimple, it'd be one closer to the top, the dead on top, looking straight down at it. So, and the key is that you should keep it still, keep everything still, nothing moves until the ball is long gone. And as Gary Player said, until he doesn't move till he hears it fall in the hole, or it should have got there by then. So I think the key is head still, focus is great. Now what do I look at? I don't stare at any one spot. I just actually look at the ball and see the ground and just stay still. Same thing I do when I hit a regular golf ball. I don't stare at a point. I don't stare at it. I look at the ball, because I know that if I'm just looking at the ball and I'm seeing the ground, if I'm moving, if I see all of a sudden the ground and the ball are moving, I know that barring an earthquake, it's me moving. So I just make my focus, so to speak, go at a periphery with the ball in the dead center, and I want it to be in the same place from here to there. Because if I get up here and all of a sudden the ball has moved forward, then that would mean only one thing: I move backwards. Or if I stop moving on a swing or even on a putt, and all of a sudden the ball and the ground are looking bigger and closer to me, I know I have to go down. Vice versa, if all of a sudden it's starting to move away from me, the ball on the ground, then I know I've moved up. So that's why I just want to keep the ball in the center of my field of vision, and that nothing changes with the ball and the ground. And that's what I look at. Now, I think with today, we have many golfers today who are really big on putting a line on the golf ball. Now, many of the golf ball companies now make little arrows and stuff on the side, but many of the caddies, you see this all the time. DJ does this. He goes for it. I tried it at one time, and I don't like the line. I get too hung up in the line. But they buy these plastic things. It has a cut in the middle here on either side, so you can do it on both sides if you wanted. And you just clip it open, sort of like those braids and stuff that ladies put in their hair. And you find that you can find that spot where the arrow is, and many of them will cover the arrow, and they get that dead centered in here. And then you just take your magic marker and you just run it up and down. And you've created your nice straight line. As you can see, there's a nice straight line. I just happen to use green marker on this one. There's a nice straight line right there. So I think what you're going to see now is a lot of golfers, when they're getting ready to putt, you see that they all get in here, and I'll do the camera towards the camera. They come up over here and they line that line up exactly where they want the putt to start. Naturally, if it was a straight putt, they would have it dead center of the hole. If it was let's say it was a 2-foot break to the right to left, they would have it over there, and they line it up with their intermediate spot. And so they do that, and you see many times they come back to the ball, and after they've looked at it and they decide and they check it out, either they want to, it's not aimed at the spot, or they've changed their mind after they initially put it down. They come back here and they really work on setting that. Well, I did that for a while, and I just got too hung up on the line, and it just bogged me down too much. So now what I do is I don't do a line. I just take my ball, I put it down bare. I always mark my balls with my golf balls with dots on them around the numbers on both sides. And I usually, if there is an arrow, I put a dot on each side. But I don't use anything. When I tee up on the course, for some reason, I aim the line on the ball that is there from the ball, or the label, and then, but on putting, I just put the ball down blank on the top or bottom, whichever is the biggest blank spot. I just put it down, and I walk in, as I said, and when I get there, I'm just looking at the ball in the center of my field of vision and go from there. So I think the thing is, you got the concept of, we've covered the looking at a dimple or a dot if you put it on your ball. I think the top is the best spot. It's hard to get the back. And following that, practice putting with a coin underneath so you can see the ground, or even if you don't use a coin, you should be able to see the ground where the ball was before you move your head. The key is keeping the head still, keeping your body and the head still, even on 50 or 100-foot putts if you have to hit one. And then, as I said, some people now are using the lines, and they focus on the lines. So find out whatever works for you. As I said, it's all about knowing these things and finding out what works best for you to help you perform the best that you can to hit any shot, from a putter to a driver, more solid, more consistently solid, straight, and so you get control of everything's happening, and you're going to shoot those lower scores. Well, that's it for the surge on keeping your head still in putting. The biggest issue is keeping your head still. However you focus, that's up to you. All right? Well, that's it for the surge for today, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.